What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla King of the Monsters discussion video. So I've gotten sick of it at this point. There's been so many people talking about Destoroyah in the MonsterVerse, clickbaiting Destoroyah in the MonsterVerse, confirmed that I had to talk about it. I had to cover it. I've got chapter times in the description below, so you can skip to whichever part of the video you want, or you can stick through the full thing. It's all up to you. In order to understand what Destoroyah is, we must first understand what the Oxygen Destroyer is. And in doing that, we'll have to go back to the very start. The Oxygen Destroyer is canon in multiple different Godzilla timelines. These timelines include the Showa series, the Heisei series, GMK timeline, and the Godzilla Mechagodzilla Millennium films. And I guess now it's also canon in the MonsterVerse, although we have yet to see it. The Oxygen Destroyer is a device created by Dr. Destoroyah in the original Godzilla film from 1954. Its purpose is to destroy all oxygen in the surrounding area. It has been stated to be so powerful that if it were to be used on land, it would turn Tokyo into a cemetery. The device works by releasing a chemical called micro-oxygen in the Heisei era into its environment. It reacts particularly violent with water, isolating molecules and splitting them. It then liquefies any organism it contacts. So all life affected by the Oxygen Destroyer will suffocate and then disintegrate. This either results in the bones being left as remnants of life or completely disintegrated. According to Godzilla, this depends on how much oxygen is present that's being attacked by the Oxygen Destroyer in the victim. In the Showa era, the Oxygen Destroyer was used to kill the original Godzilla in the 1954 movie. It was never used again because Dr. Destoroyah burned all his notes on the weapon and then sacrificed himself to stop Godzilla. We'll skip ahead to the Millennium era because the Heisei era is the big one, so we'll skip ahead to the Millennium so that we can just get this done with. Following in the Showa footsteps, the Oxygen Destroyer is a legendary weapon that was used to kill the original Godzilla in both Millennium timelines it is canon to. In the GMK timeline, the Oxygen Destroyer was covered up by the JSDF to avoid criticism for never being able to recreate the device. In the Godzilla x Mechagodzilla timeline, everything goes the same as it does in the 54 movie, except Godzilla's skeleton does not disintegrate. The Oxygen Destroyer is seen in a flashback. In the Heisei timeline, like I said, this is the big one. Everything happens according to the 54 movie. In Godzilla vs. Biollante, the Oxygen Destroyer makes a cameo as a statue of the device in tribute to Destoroyah's invention. Hey, that's cool. I didn't know that. Thanks for pointing that out, Godzilla. Then in Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, a doctor whose name I can't pronounce, but I'm pretty sure it's something like Ivan? I don't remember, reveals that he has discovered something called micro-oxygen, and he plans to use it to help humanity. He declines to recreate the Oxygen Destroyer due to its destructive capabilities. This brings us to Destoroyah. A creature escapes from a soil sample collected from where the Oxygen Destroyer had been previously detonated. This creature makes its way from a lab to an aquarium where it kills and disintegrates a bunch of fish. This creature is identified as a microscopic organism that has been mutated by the use of the Oxygen Destroyer. The creature then grows into a 6-foot-tall monster that fights the military. Then it grows again into a 50-foot monster that fights the military, although this time it's being fought by tanks, and then it combines into a nearly 200-foot-tall crab monster that fights the son of Godzilla. They mutate again into a 213-foot-tall flying state that continues to harass Godzilla's son until it gets defeated and crashes into a factory. Destoroyah evolves into a 754-foot-tall giant devil kaiju that kills the son of Godzilla and does a number on burning Godzilla, the most powerful Godzilla incarnation up to this point between the Showa and Heisei era. Destoroyah is eventually killed as a result of burning Godzilla's red spiral ray, his nuclear pulse, and some cryo lasers from the JSDF. Destoroyah's powers. Destoroyah has the ability to evolve and devolve at will. He's also super strong, like strong enough to tank Junior's atomic breath, the burning Godzilla red spiral ray, a few shots of the incredibly strong atomic pulse, and loads of military weapons. He's strong enough to pick up other kaiju with his tail, and he's also physically strong enough to combat Junior fist to fist. Destoroyah can fire beams of pure micro oxygen out of his mouth, which is essentially him firing Oxygen Destroyer out of his mouth, so the thing that killed the original Godzilla. He can suck the life force out of his victims. The horn on his head can fire up into a supercharged state that projects a laser katana powerful enough to slice through burning Godzilla's skin super easily, and also Destoroyah's spiky aft, bro. You can't get anywhere near him without getting poked. There was an original plan to let Destoroyah have this super strong fire laser that came out of his stomach / chest. It was going to be pretty powerful. It was going to knock Godzilla over. This was actually filmed but cut from the Godzilla vs. Destoroyah movie due to I'm not sure what reasons, but they cut it, so it's not technically canon. But if you want, we can consider it canon here, just because we're talking about Destoroyah the creature in general, not the creature presented in the movie. How do you kill Destoroyah? Well, there's quite a few ways to kill him. You can kill him with fire, or cadmium, or atomic breath, or freeze rays, or a combination of both. That seems to do it really well. This leads us to the Oxygen Destroyer in the MonsterVerse. Michael Dougherty confirmed the return of the Oxygen Destroyer, and we have seen a picture of it, and it looks just like the old Oxygen Destroyer. There is not much to that. That is literally all there is. That's all there is. Stop getting your hopes up. That's all there is. Alright, Destoroyah in the MonsterVerse. People really want this. Destoroyah is considered to be one of Godzilla's most powerful opponents, and as a result, he has become a fan favorite of the years. This is also due to his killer design, his awesome movie, and his amazing appearances in Godzilla comics. Hell yeah. So people think they really need this, they really want Destoroyah to come back. They feel like it has to happen. And with Michael Dougherty confirming the Oxygen Destroyer would return for Godzilla King of the Monsters, people are ready to believe that Destoroyah will be back. They're so desperate to hear his return that it has resulted in mass amounts of clickbait being spread around, quote unquote, confirming his entrance into King of the Monsters just because Michael Dougherty said the Oxygen Destroyer would return and would be important to the movie. I'm here to tell you it's all clickbait. It's BS. Destoroyah is not a character that Legendary owns. We know that Legendary owns Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. Those are the only kaiju Legendary owns. I mean, technically they have the rights to Mechagodzilla for Ready Player One, but that seemingly is a one-movie deal from what we know. It would be incredibly surprising if it turned out to be otherwise. We would know if they had the rights to Destoroyah, and they would promote that fact. And also, here's the thing. Everyone says the Oxygen Destroyer is directly linked to Destoroyah, and they're not wrong, but I think a better way to word that would be Destoroyah is directly linked to the Oxygen Destroyer. If Destoroyah was confirmed for King of the Monsters, you wouldn't hear me objecting to the fact that the Oxygen Destroyer will return. Because the Oxygen Destroyer is confirmed for King of the Monsters, you are hearing me object to Destoroyah's return, and here is why. In 3/4 of the cinematic continuities that the Oxygen Destroyer exists in, it does not exist with Destoroyah. Its involvement in King of the Monsters does not suggest Destoroyah will appear, because the Oxygen Destroyer doesn't always link to Destoroyah. Outside of just people thinking it would be cool if Destoroyah appeared in the MonsterVerse, what evidence is there to suggest that he'll actually be in this movie? I'll tell you what, there's none. There's literally none. If anyone has any evidence, please put it down in those comments below, and don't let it be a little fan theory. I don't want to hear fan theories right now. When you're trying to defend Destoroyah's appearance in the MonsterVerse, don't put a little fan theory like, wouldn't it be cool if... Don't do that. All I need to know is what evidence is there, because I'll tell you what, there isn't any. Putting Destoroyah in your title and thumbnail is a really good way to get clicks. I'll tell you that for sure. It is a good way to get money off people through ad rev, because people are so desperate to hear of Destoroyah's return that they will be actively looking for any reason to believe he is confirmed. I know this because I'm guilty of doing the same thing with other movies. I do this with the MCU all the time. I'm desperate to see my favorite comic characters show up in the MCU, so any chance I I get to hear some clickbait about this character returning, I will jump on that and hope it's true. I know it. I know that's what fans do because I do it all the time. People have become so desperate to see their favorite Toho kaiju return that they make up situations and scenarios to force those old monsters into the MonsterVerse. And listen, it isn't impossible to see Destoroyah appear in these movies, but it is horribly unlikely, and it's nowhere close to being confirmed at the moment. The inclusion of the Oxygen Destroyer does not suggest Destoroyah will appear at all. Ghidorah has shared screen time with both Anguirus and Gigan on multiple occasions in the past, and yet Ghidorah's confirmation in Godzilla 2 doesn't mean Gigan and Anguirus are any more likely to be involved in King of the Monsters either. Rodan and Mothra have both starred in movies with Mechagodzilla. That doesn't mean that in this new movie, Godzilla 2, because they're in it, Mechagodzilla will also appear alongside them. Just because they've been linked in the past doesn't mean they'll be linked in the present. Don't get your hopes up. Stop feeding into the clickbait propaganda and giving everyone clicks and views. That's all they need to get money. It's ridiculous. Now listen, people want to see this. This is what people want to see. I'm not going to argue against that because I know that's just a fact of life. Here's one of the main reasons why. This isn't the only reason why people want to see Destoroyah return, but this is the big one that I've been seeing lately. Fans can't handle conflict between fan bases. They just can't. They're afraid of it. Even though for whatever reason they're totally down to go to war with their own fan bases, people desire an easy out. An unsatisfying conclusion. This leads us to the two camps of people I have seen when it comes to Godzilla vs. Kong, and there are more. These are just the two main camps. We'll cover Godzilla vs. Kong in its own video, so don't think that this is going to derail into a full Godzilla vs. Kong discussion, but here's basically what it comes down to. The first camp says Godzilla is awesome. He is Godzilla. There's no fight between him and Kong. Godzilla is a god. Godzilla has already won. And then there's the other side of people who say Kong is going to pull this off. Listen, he's the underdog. People like the underdog. Kong is more sympathetic than Godzilla. American audiences generally like Kong more than Godzilla. The MonsterVerse will need to continue after Godzilla reverts back to Toho in 2020, so Kong's a great way to do that. Kong is going to have some super brute strength as a result of him basically being a gorilla hyped up on steroids. His abilities to use weapons, speed, and intelligence gives him a clear advantage over Godzilla. Those are basically your two camps of people, right? And these camps typically agree on one thing that I just can't understand. They agree on the point of, I can't stand the thought of my favorite monster losing in a versus movie. But like, I'm looking at this going, yeah, it's a versus movie. That's kind of the point. You kind of have to see one beat the other. Otherwise, it's just, it ends. That's not a satisfying movie at all. Then there's no point in making a versus movie. Or if you have Godzilla be God and Kong doesn't stand a chance, there's no point in making that movie because we already know who wins. So then there's that group of people who says, we need them to team up against a bigger threat. We need Godzilla and Kong to not fight each other, but to team up against a bigger threat. Destoroyah will save the day, sort of. Godzilla and Kong will be fighting, they'll be at the end of their line, both on the verge of killing one another. Destoroyah, for whatever reason, shows up out of the ashes and enters the match. Maybe Godzilla's like standing over Kong, ready to atomic breath him to death. Maybe Kong's about to stab Godzilla to death. Who knows? One of them's on top of the other. All of a sudden you hear this roar, they both look to the side, out of the smoke comes Destoroyah. I've heard that scenario pitched 10,000 times already. Then, you know, Godzilla and Kong, they'll team up, they'll beat Destoroyah, and they'll become buddies. The end. Ish. I don't want to get into it in this video, but that's a really bad idea. Here's what I want to see. If, and this is a mighty big if, the MonsterVerse continues after Godzilla vs. Kong in 2020, I'd love to see Destoroyah appear in Godzilla 3 as some sort of final titan, final kaiju for the MonsterVerse legendary Godzilla to take on. That'd be awesome. You could set it up in King of the Monsters with the use of the Oxygen Destroyer. You could naturally blend him into the universe as it goes on. That'd be great. But as it stands, I don't want this guy anywhere near the confirmed MonsterVerse movies. A team up, which would stop the Godzilla vs. Kong battle and have them fight Destoroyah, would fail for dozens of reasons. I don't even want to get into it in this video because it would take too long to explain. His inclusion of King of the Monsters would feel incredibly forced and convoluted, and it'd bog down the plot. It would also distract from the point of the movie. Even in a post-credit scene, it wouldn't make sense because he wouldn't fit in Godzilla vs. Kong. There's no confirmation the MonsterVerse will continue after GVK, so throwing Destoroyah in a post-credit scene will build up hype for something that they will probably never capitalize on. Keep this guy away from the current lineup. Put him in a future movie, and then it can work. Put him in a current movie and it will fail. That's my thoughts on destroying the MonsterVerse. I'm down to see it someday down the line, just not before Godzilla vs. Kong, not during Godzilla vs. Kong, afterward. Afterward, I'm down to see it, but listen, ultimately, there is no confirmation that Destoroyah will appear. There's no evidence to suggest he will appear in the MonsterVerse. The Oxygen Destroyer does not link to Destoroyah. Destoroyah links to the Oxygen Destroyer. Don't forget that. It's not the other way around. Don't forget that. I'm sorry I'm a little sick in this one. My voice is kind of killing me. It sucks to talk through all this, but it is what it is. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time for I don't know what video. D-Man, out.